Aloha, everyone. Thank you for those who have stuck around for the very last panel of the day. My name is Samantha Larson. I'm a project manager with AE Consulting, and I have the honor of moderating this very important conversation around cultivating a robust clean energy workforce in Hawaii. At AE Consulting, we are a community impact-focused research and consulting firm. We do a lot of work in the workforce development and education space in Hawaii. We co-convene all of the industry sector partnerships in the state, and we've also done several workforce analyses, including in clean energy. And so I think everybody at this conference and in this room now recognizes that having a highly skilled and adaptable local workforce is really critical to Hawaii's clean energy future. And the folks we have on this panel today have really been at the forefront and leading in this work. There has been a lot of great momentum over the last few years in terms of clean energy workforce development. We've had the Good Jobs Hawaii initiative led by the University of Hawaii Community Colleges, which has trained up so many local residents and gotten them into great energy jobs. We've also had the launch of the Clean Energy Sector Partnership back in 2023 that is led by the Hawaii State Energy Office along with the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii supporting that work. And so I really like the makeup of folks that we have on this panel today because they kind of represent the education to workforce pipeline in clean energy. We have representation from secondary education, we have post-secondary, we have a utility employer, and we have 2 of the electrical unions representing as well. So really kind of the pathway here we have represented on this panel. But before we get into actually, you know what? We're gonna dive in to have the panelists introduce themselves first. So we'll go down the line, and if you could just share your name, role, organization, and tell the audience what is one thing that gets you excited about your role in clean energy workforce development.
Thank you so much. Well, my name is Spencer Alexander. I'm a science teacher at James Campbell High School on the island of Oahu in Ewa Beach. I teach a number of different science classes, including the energy CTE class, environmental science, biology science, and I mean, pretty much most of them. And I guess something that gets me really excited about the energy pathway. I joined the energy pathway around the same time that the sector partnership was getting started in 2023. And I was so overwhelmed by the amount of passion that everyone really had for whether it was the sector itself, the sector partnership, or the Keiki to Career Pathline that we're creating. It was really full of hope and optimism for the future, and that was something that I definitely wanted to surround myself with, because the whole reason why I became a teacher was to create a better future for our students and to give them the tools to shape the world into the place that they want to see. And so I really find hope and a lot of passion in what we do.
Thank you, Spencer.
Excellent, thanks, Spencer. Marshall Norman, I'm with University of Hawaii Community Colleges. I'm a program manager working in our Office of Workforce Innovation. I work on the Good Jobs Hawaii initiative and specifically the Good Jobs Challenge Grant. I've had the pleasure of really actually seeing this project now through from seeding the Clean Energy Skilled Trade Sector Partnership now to actually moving post-grant and actually seeing the institutionalization of some of the elements that we've realized under Good Jobs Hawaii. One thing that really gets me excited about clean energy workforce development is I like to see young adults see their lives changed by the impact of having access to a good job. And I like industry here within our state being able to find the workers that they need to be successful here locally in Hawaii. That gets me excited.
Aloha, Kazu Hayashida, Workforce Planning Manager at Hawaiian Electric. What I'm excited about clean energy is working at Hawaiian Electric. It's been such an experience. Hearing our leaders talk about our organization of and for Hawaii, and really the work that we do really helps keep the lights on for so many people. And being able to share that with the younger generations of opportunity, being able to find a sustainable job, to live in Hawaii, to thrive here. And so really excited to work with all of these partners on that and build something for our future generations.
Aloha, I'm Leroy Chincio, business manager with IBEW Local 1260. We represent about 3,000 members in Hawaii, Guam, and Wake Island. Our biggest signatory, of course, is the utilities with Hawaiian Electric and KIUC. We're really excited just about the transition into clean energy and getting new jobs and being able to create local jobs in that sector.
And Damien, before you introduce yourself, I actually have a special announcement to make. On behalf of Maui County Council Chair Alice Lee, Vice Chair Yukile Sugimura, and the council members, they have prepared a certificate extending congratulations and deep appreciation of your 40 years of dedicated service to the electrical industry and your leadership in providing a skilled labor for Hawaii's renewable energy installations. So although you are retiring from your position of business manager with Local 1186, we know that you are being tapped for future leadership on IBEW's national level, and we know you will represent Hawaii well. So congratulations, and can we get a round of applause for Damien?
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. Unexpected, and thank you so much. Any of the Maui County people are here. Again, very excited, very happy about it. Again, Damien Kim. I am the former business manager of Local 1186, just newly retired. We represent the construction industry side, so all the work we've done with renewable energies, we're from anywhere from wind farms, PV, solar farms, and all battery installations is the work that we do out there, our members do. What I'm excited about, the future of with our kids here in Hawaii is that being able to, pretty much what the panel said, give them an opportunity to better themselves, live and thrive in Hawaii with a good living wage so that they can stay here in Hawaii, grow up here in Hawaii, and still be a part of our ohana here in Hawaii itself. So that's what excites me, to be able to cultivate that and keep that in our islands.
Thank you, Damien. And now, getting into our discussion, I'd like to start with our industry folks on the panel, Kazu, Leroy, and Damien, kind of getting a lay of the land of what are the in-demand jobs right now. So what would you say are some of the most in-demand jobs in energy in Hawaii right now? And what are some of the jobs that students and job seekers might not know about?
Thank you. So it's a question that we get asked a lot at Hawaiian Electric. What are your clean energy jobs? And it's really interesting because as we move toward 100% renewable, Hawaiian Electric as an organization is going to become 100% renewable, which means all of our jobs are going to become clean energy jobs. But right now, when we're looking at roles, really, as you've heard earlier today, distribution planners, grid modernization, wildfire strategy, environmental, and of course, a lot in our digital area. So cybersecurity, digital grid, data analytics, and a little bit in the AI sector. So lots and lots of opportunities for individuals in all those areas.
Going off Kazu, again, we work closely with Hawaiian Electric, and we partner with them in a lot of these different jobs, just transitioning these jobs into clean energy jobs. Moving from the fossil fuel, one example being the Waiau power plant that we're going to be building. It's great to transition and keep these local jobs here in Hawaii.
And so a lot of the jobs that I think that people don't realize, for one is that on the energy sector and renewables, electricians do a lot of that work over there. So aside from the solar farms and like I said, I brought up about windmills, but electric vehicles is another one, battery installation, battery storage. But regarding electric vehicles, people don't know that you can get into now with the car manufacturers that are doing electric vehicles now is maintaining, repairing those electric vehicles. We have training also in heavy to medium type trucks as well, which is all battery as well. Automation, AI now with data centers. So that the job is really expansive as far as the type of work that you can do aside from engineering and other things that is related to all of these renewable energies.
Yeah, I mean, from hearing what all of you have shared, clean energy, it's such a diverse set of jobs, right? It's not just electricians, it's not just engineers. HECO really has every type of job from IT to cybersecurity, and they even have meteorologists working there. They really have everything. And then even within those professions like electricians and engineers, there's all kinds of different projects that people work on as well. It's not always the same work environment or the same type of job, really. So thank you for sharing that. Next, I mean, it would be great to have you reflect a little bit on some of the progress you've seen in your work over the last few years. So Spencer, we can start with you and go down the line. What are some of the wins that you've seen in the past few years when it comes to developing our local clean energy workforce pipeline?
Well, I think the first big win that I had as a teacher was to graduate the first students as graduates of the energy pathway. So last year in 2025, we graduated our first two energy seniors. So they graduated with full honors, and they went on to pursue their various challenges that they chose to pursue. But I think that really showed the success and the excitement that the students had for the energy pathway. Whether it was taking hands-on challenges at building wind turbines of their own, or figuring out how solar panels worked, or trying to understand the thermodynamics of a building and how that fits into its energy efficiency models. Really seeing the students engage with the work and come alive from the challenges of it was probably the second really exciting thing that I saw. Whether it was freshman students in their first year of high school challenging themselves with trying to understand the math behind kinetic energy and physical energy and stuff like that, and trying to figure out how circuits work and how to light up a light bulb. Even something as simple as that. For them understanding that electricity is something is real, and that they can touch and they can manipulate and create wonders with was really kind of amazing to see. I think I'll say the last really amazing thing I saw was the State Energy Office has this amazing tool. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's called the Haven tool. And if you've seen it, I'm sure you've been amazed by it. It is essentially a 3D representation of the island of Oahu, and they can project onto it a bunch of different map data points, which is really exciting. For my students, it was an especially powerful tool to help them understand about the grid and how the grid works and how it generates electricity and how it sends it out to the customers. And so my students, being as amazing as they are, decided, you know what, we're going to make our own Haven model. And so they made a 3D papier-mâché version of the island, and they built these miniature models of the power plants, and they connected wires to act as transmission lines to go from the power plants to the various communities across the island. And it was an amazing model. And so I think their willingness to engage with difficult things and use the skills that they have to create and showcase their knowledge to the world, even if they don't fully understand what it means, is probably one of the better things I've seen.
Great. Thanks, Spencer. I think one of the accomplishments that I've really seen during this phase of working within the clean energy sector, and especially in a training-oriented space, is that through the Good Jobs Hawaii initiative that's been hosted by the consortium of University of Hawaii community colleges across the state, we've seen over 1,500 participants trained in skilled trades and clean energy occupations. And also, hear me talk a lot about the interconnection between skilled trades and clean energy, and that's a conversation that I've been having with a lot of conversations with colleagues on the continent about that. We cannot always dissect those two and look at specific clean energy or specifically at skilled trades, but both those occupations, and when it comes to training pedagogy, it's all based on each other. It all develops into one another. So seeing over 1,500 participants trained within our clean energy and skilled trades area, that is actually going to go into our skilled trades and clean energy workforce here in the state. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. And we also have seen over 900 individuals now employed within skilled trades and clean energy fields within our state. And those are individuals that are working here, that are staying here, and that are accessing good jobs here in Hawaii.
So in regards to wins this past year, I would say definitely I have to give kudos to all of our partners because they really help support us in getting out into the community, being able to engage with community members, students to share our message about opportunities. And so UH Systems, on a big scale, we've partnered with them in multiple areas, College of Engineering at Manoa, IT across the state, and UH Maui College here specifically in Maui. Our summer internship program had a banner year last year where we hosted 32 summer interns, which was a record number for us. This year, we're actually going to exceed that and have 48. Mostly Kamaina related, so definitely opportunities for locals to learn more about our company, but also about energy occupations. And as I mentioned, Maui College, so working closely with Leroy and his team to create a pre-apprenticeship for our generation team here in Maui. They were having difficulty finding applicants that were interested in the skilled trades, so having a program where we could get the community involved through a grant through UH Maui College to bring individuals in to learn 6 different areas in generation so they could get hands-on training and learning different ways to operate. But at the end of the apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, we were able to hire half of them into the organization, so great success there. The second cohort is actually going on right now with graduation on the 19th, so super excited about that continuing. But in addition to that, working a lot with the Chamber of Commerce on sector partnerships. We've been a part of engineering sector partnership, the IT sector partnership, and then clean energy, skilled trades with the Hawaii State Energy Office. Through that, we've been able to host both educator externships, student externships, showing them different sites, talking about opportunities, work-based learning opportunities, and of course, promoting our internship program. So a lot of that has been great. And I also want to mention the Kamaina Come Home program. Jackie Hoover had started that with the Hawaii Island Economic Development Board. I've had the pleasure of being able to partner with that, and it's really about taking a look at local talent that's here, but also on the continent, and finding ways to engage, to provide education and opportunities, to bring them back home. And so early next month, we're actually going to be going to DC with the Chamber for Hawaii on the Hill, and we'll have a Kamaina Come Home event there in DC. I'm also going to reach out to UNLV, have an event there, and also at University of Washington to hopefully engage this year to build momentum so we can have more events next year. We're also going to have a local event on Oahu on August 5th at Kupu for Kamaina Come Home. So if anybody's interested, please reach out. But lots and lots of great success. Thank you.
You know, for us, some of the big success that we've had recently is just being in line and having a commitment from the people we work with, such as Hawaiian Electric, KIUC, and making that commitment to create the local jobs here. With clean energy, it's constantly transforming, but what you got to understand too is the grid itself is totally different from 10 years ago. It's not a one-way electron, it goes 2 ways now. So working with the system, our system operators need constant training. The devices and electronics that they use to oversee this. And again, one of the biggest things we've started this year is Lineman Apprentice Program in conjunction with Hawaiian Electric, because we needed that commitment in order to get it through. But that will allow local people to get lineman jobs that before was only available through the utility. So looking forward to that.
Thank you. So what I've seen in success and wins for us is that the state the state and counties have been listening to a lot of the things that we've been saying, and they've started a lot of CTE programs in a lot of the high schools, which is the pathways to getting into the trades and learning all the different subjects and teaching that in the school itself. So for us, what's been helpful is that we have kids graduating when they do apply for an apprenticeship that has some knowledge already about, for us in the electrical industry, others in the carpentry, welding, and other industries as well in construction, that they're getting all of this training, schooling, math, reading, all in school already, and finding that pathway of what they want to do. So when they come to us, we're able to move them along a lot quicker. We got better kids that are better prepared, and our contractors love that because they got a product that's not brand new and fresh. They have somebody that at least has some knowledge and can start working right off the bat once they start with a company itself. The other thing that has been a great win for us is that we've been tapping into the veterans. So we've been working with veterans throughout the country that want to learn electrical. IBEW has a program that veterans or veterans that are coming out, or they're not veterans yet, but soon to be veterans coming out of the military, get to attend some classes, and from there they can decide what state they want to go to. If they, so we have some military guys that were from in the mainland doing their service up there that decide they want to come back to Hawaii. So we accept them back in. We just brought in, I think, 8 apprentices that are veterans from the military. So giving them an opportunity to better their lives after serving their country from what they've been doing for us. So that's been a positive thing for us. And it helps out our apprenticeship because, as you know, when you get a veteran, you got somebody that is reliable, comes to work on time, very respectful. And that translates in a classroom to a lot of our apprentices that are non-military, that when they see these veterans acting the way they act, doing what they're doing, raising their hands, to ask questions, standing up, they start to follow the same path and follow the same way and earn that respect from them as well. So that's a good thing for our program.
Thank you all. It's great to hear your different approaches and how a lot of your efforts are overlapping because you're working together. There's so much partnership involved in this work. And I'm also hearing a theme too of kind of access. It's not just about filling the jobs, it's about providing that opportunity for local people to get into the pathway and make a good career in this sector. So I'd love to hear that. We're going to shift gears a little bit to kind of think on the flip side of progress. I'm sure there have been lots of roadblocks and barriers that you've encountered in this work. And so from your perspective, I want to know, what do you see as being the biggest challenges to growing Hawaii's clean energy workforce? We'll start with Spencer.
Well, challenges is, there are many challenges. As the energy CTE teacher at the school that I'm at, which is James Campbell High School on the island of Oahu, unfortunately the school made the decision to close our energy CTE line pathway this year. We've been going 3 years since 2023 with the inception of the pathway. So it was Campbell High School was one of the schools that chose to pilot the energy CTE pathway, along with Kapolei High School. And then there was another school on the Big Island. I'm always forgetting of their name.
Kealakehe.
Thank you so much. And so unfortunately, Kealakehe did decide to close their pathway after the first year. Kapolei High School also decided to close their pathway after the second year. And James Campbell High School, unfortunately, also made the decision to close their pathway this year after the third year. Thankfully, we are being succeeded by Waipahu High School, which will have their first year with the energy pathway next year. So we're wishing them the best of luck. But I think it stands to show that there are some very big red flags that are showing because of that. I mean, you can clearly see if 3 different schools are closing this energy pathway one after another, it kind of sends a signal that something is not quite working out, right? So it begs the question, why are these schools closing their pathways? At James Campbell, we took a look at this and the answer was very simple. the students were not signing up for the pathway. And so if there are not enough students signing up for the pathway, then it's not worthwhile to allocate a teacher to teach an empty class when you could have a teacher teaching a full class of just another subject. Right? And I think it's probably a very similar situation at Kapolei High as well. So then that begs the question, why are the students not signing up? Right? Is it that the energy pathway is not attractive enough? Are we not offering job opportunities which will provide them with a future that they can feel secure in? Or is it just awareness? Do they just not know what energy is? And I think we can definitely say with great certainty that we are offering some amazing opportunities to our students once they finally get into the energy sector. So then the question must be, okay, how are they finding out about energy? Right? And if you think back into the annals of your personal history, did you know about the energy sector when you were what is essentially a middle school student? I mean, I, for one, definitely did not. I'm actually in the middle of sending out surveys to a lot of the feeder middle schools that feed into our high school, so hopefully I will have some results back from them to see whether or not they are aware and how aware they are of the energy pathway and the energy sector. But before I sent the survey out, I did some preliminary thinking about it. When the students are registering for classes, they get a registration guide in it that has a description of all the classes, and they kind of get to choose from there, just like when you guys went to college, about what classes they want to sign up for. And from that little paragraph that says, the Foundations of Energy class is a class about learning about the energy sector, about the grid, and about how electricity works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that something that's really going to excite them to sign up for the class? In all likelihood, probably not. They'll probably want to take something else, like maybe learning Japanese because they're busy watching anime or something like that. Or they're going to be like, well, my friend signed up for this other class, either the business pathway class or maybe the health class. And so they follow what seems to be popular, what their friends are doing, the things that they're personally very excited for, or they may follow the recommendations of their parents, right? Maybe they see that their parents are busy working in, a mechanics shop, and they think that's so cool that they're working on the cars and they're, helping out on the weekends, and they can already see a future for themselves as a car mechanic, working on cars in the shop, and they're like, you know what, that's what I want to do. That's what's really fun and engaging to me. And so if we look at it, we're seeing that there's not really a lot of awareness about what energy is, what the energy sector has to offer. And I think that needs to be kind of one of the first steps that we take to remedy this challenge of why these three pathways closed.
Thank you, Spencer. I think it's a really good analysis of the situation, right? Because there's a lot of different factors at play. There's already lots of pathways that students can choose from. As we heard from Kazu, energy really has nearly every type of occupation in it, besides maybe like healthcare and culinary, right? And so those are all pathways that also exist. And so maybe taking a different approach could be kind of embedding energy within those other pathways that already exist. And I know that's probably already being done when it comes to like construction or like the mechanics or electricians. There's like obvious opportunities there, and I'm sure that's already happening. But how can we do that in other pathways as well? Like if it's business or if it's IT or anything like that. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I'm sorry to hear about the pathway closing, but you were so integral to building that program up, and I just want to commend you for your work with that.
Thank you so much. I really do hope that in addition to finding energy within other classes and other pathways, that energy is able to become more visible within the community, right? So I'm going to be hoping and talking with the other teachers that I work with to try and get more guest speakers coming into their classes from our various sector partners, as well as hopefully encouraging more extracurricular activities, because there are a lot of other programs out there that I think students are just unaware of.
Yeah. Like Samantha and Spencer that you were saying, I think sometimes we silo ourselves into actually thinking, hey, what's actually specifically clean energy? And then that silo creates a lot of barriers from us from actually operating beyond that, where it's like, we know clean energy is our future. It is the more cost-effective form of energy, is going to be our future. It cascades beyond so many of the different boundaries that we know. It looks at, when does going into automotive or becoming an automotive technician, when does that transition into clean energy? Is at that point that automotive technology starts advancing more and more into EV? And then it becomes a clean energy. I think those are some of the opportunities that we really have to look at and explore, and to say that, hey, a clean energy occupation is very, very broad, and it takes a lot of different factors. If I look at the Good Jobs Hawaii initiative, and specifically at the clean energy trainings that we've done, some of the top training opportunities would be areas that we wouldn't necessarily specifically see as a clean energy occupation. And that would be like certified energy manager or certified energy auditor. A lot of times you're gonna actually find those clean energy positions. It's actually gonna be embedded more within your engineering and your facility maintenance departments, but they're still leading to that clean energy workforce within our state. And so I think that that is one of the areas actually that we need to look outside of the box. And one of the biggest challenges, as both of you mentioned, is awareness too. What are all those occupations that are available, that exist within our state, that lead to good jobs, that allow families, not only individuals, but families to stay here in Hawaii, but also lead to career advancement and career opportunity within that specific occupation.
Yeah, I think you've both hit it on the nose, where awareness is the key factor. As I mentioned before, you know, Hawaiian Electric is going to become a clean energy organization, which means all 2,700 employees, 1,500 different job titles are all going to be clean energy. But when we look at it today, we just had this conversation backstage. We were talking about, when you see the energy pathway, when you see clean energy, what is that mascot? What is that one position that everybody knows is, yes, that's what I'm going for? But when you look across all the pathways, you know, we hire engineers, we hire IT professionals, we hire, as Samantha said, everything except healthcare, culinary, and aviation. Hawaiian Electric probably has a position for you. And then it goes back to that awareness piece. You know, did you know that we have our own in-house legal team? We have social media, digital communications, government affairs, HR, finance. And so you can be, you know, accountant at Hawaiian Electric, you could be one somewhere else, but how do we attract and make students aware that these opportunities exist? Even for myself, I've only been with Hawaiian Electric a little under 4 years, but I came as an HR professional, not necessarily an energy professional. So learning the energy business, the utility, was new for me. So I had a lot of education coming in and awareness that I knew that I had to share with others, the same things that I didn't know coming into this. So definitely, you know, those are the big barriers. Of course, we have all the other barriers that all the other industries that are facing, lack of talent in Hawaii, brain drain, out-migration of talent, all those other things. But specifically to energy, I think awareness is the #1 thing. And really having to partner with our community to build, both within industry, but also with our partner educators, organizers, to share the awareness, the opportunities, the work-based learnings. How can we partner together to build more?
Thanks. I think for, you know, as far as 1260, one of the things that we're definitely looking for is, one is participation and commitment. I mean, bringing labor in to the conversation at an earlier time instead of just when you need it. Let us know, you know, what is the plan, where are we going with it, what types of jobs would you need. That would give us time to, you know, help transition and teach the skills that will be needed for these new jobs. And, you know, when you talk about clean energy, the biggest thing is just self-reliance. And I think the general theme you hear up here is creating these local jobs to make us self-reliant, not just on the fuel itself, but on our own people to fix when something gets broken. I mean, and that's what we're looking for, is bring us into the conversation, tell us what you need, and let us be a resource into helping build that. And just to add to Kazu, is I think our drone pilots count as aviation.
Thank you. If I can do a just quick comment on what you folks were talking about with the school and CTE program. So I sit on Waipahu's IET board, and the topic of brought up about doing a clean energy type of class, energy class, and my suggestion to them is kind of like what you said, Samantha. You don't have a dedicated class for it, but you teach it in the other one. So you teach it in the electrical field, you teach it in the engineering department, those that want to be engineers, and you give them a taste of what energy is, right? And what the energy sector is and what it's all about. And I think that's the better way to go about it, because there's so many different aspects of jobs out there for that, that's how you make them aware of that. So I don't know if they're going to have a dedicated class for it, because I'm trying to talk them out of that, knowing of what's been happening, because I did hear about the closing rate of the classes. And it is something that has to be taught out there, but it's just spread out. It's like in automotive and all that as well. But the biggest challenge is that I see in meeting the clean energy workforce is that it was talked about yesterday, and it all has to do with whether we're going to get those tax funded from the federal, the state, whether we're going to get, just not the taxes itself, but when is the RFPs coming out? When is the jobs? When is the permits? When is, all these things plays a role on workforce, because we have a workforce. And I'm going to tell you that our apprenticeship was popular where, we have a lot of people applying and taking the tests and they get ranked on a list. Well, we're closing down our apprenticeship because we have too much on our list right now. We have about 300 people on the waiting list to get into our program. But that's because of the slowdown on the renewables. A lot of the solar farm jobs take about 70 to 80 electricians out there in various positions on each project. And when that project is done and there's not one to follow through and carry over, those 80 people come back in our books, and they sit on the waiting list waiting to go back out to another job. So right now, there is a lull in it because of all the delays in the project itself. So our contractors can plan out some of the other government work that might be out there or private sector work. But regarding renewables, it has been tough because of the tariffs and everything else that's been adding price and cost and getting materials and all that too. So that's been the biggest challenge of that, trying to have that crystal ball of when that work is going to start up again. Yeah.
That's a really good point you make, Damien. I mean, it's a big question when it comes to this sector, right? How do you do workforce planning when the landscape it's so in flux, right? We don't know what projects are necessarily going to happen yet, which means we don't know exactly how many jobs will be needed. Marshall and Kazu, I wonder if you would comment on that, because you're both so involved in that space. And how do you approach that?
Yeah, and so what we initially saw within this, probably about 2 to 3 years ago, was when there's a lot more public dollars going into clean energy infrastructure. I think some of the highest enrolled entry-level trainings that we were doing were renewable energy certificate program, and then solar safety training, and solar installation fundamentals. And we've seen a shift in that, and that shift in that has as different public funds then get condensed or no longer available. We see then training much more aligning then into skilled trades-based occupations. And so even from the Good Jobs Hawaii initiative, and what we've seen is then we've seen that pivoted. One of the largest is carpenters pre-apprenticeship training. So apprenticeships into other skilled trade areas that allow them to pivot back and forth depending from public sector work and then private sector work. That creates a lot of resiliency within that individual. I've also seen that as we look at the data, is that job entrance into the market tend to, what we've been seeing is entry-level pathways oftentimes start within the skilled trades, and as those individuals advance or become more incumbent workers, and then they're upskilling into clean energy specific occupations. So still the opportunities that we've been seeing is broadly skilled trades, and then as those skilled trades become more and more specialized, that's where the clean energy specialization comes into focus.
I think for us, we really had to get out of the box to search for funding. There is some funding out there, and so whether it be, organization may have a grant that hasn't been fully utilized, so if we have a training or program or an idea that we come up with that might meet some of the requirements there, they're willing to partner with us to provide some of the funding. Local different funding groups, so the Hawaii Workforce Funders Collaborative, Howard K. Castle Foundation, a lot of other organizations that are willing to help support, maybe not as much, but smaller trainings that we can do. And so really looking for local, but also on national scale, other organizations that may have funding that we could qualify for or tap into. And sometimes it may not align exactly with what we were hoping to train for, but upskilling our workforce is something that we're going to continue to have to do. So figuring out how to make the funding match some skill sets so that our people can be ultimately upskilled for better jobs in the future.
Great. Well, we just have one more question left before we turn to Q&A. So if anybody has questions for the panel, please do submit them in the app. It's clear that there is a need to better engage students in energy careers. We talked a lot about career awareness. How do we do that? I'll start with Spencer first. I mean, you know firsthand from working with the students directly, what are the best ways to engage them, and what support does the education side need from industry partners to make that happen?
Engaging students is an amazing thing. The first step that I usually take when I'm, teaching in my classroom is to first figure out where each of the students are at. By figuring out where they're at and kind of where their interests lay, you can design a program that's kind of more adapted to what each of the students is kind of looking for. And as you design the curriculum, it has to be kind of an even balance of challenging technical skills, math, science, rigorous work, as well as more hands-on challenges, larger activities, building projects, things like that. As my compatriots were kind of mentioning just earlier, the path to clean energy is kind of fraught with hiccups. You can look at it as being divided between the skilled trades sector as well as kind of a more climate-aware, sustainability-focused sector. For the students that are kind of more interested in creating sustainability and climate focus and environmental type jobs, they're going to lean more into kind of understanding about carbon emissions and carbon cycles and how that can impact their environment. And so by teaching them more about that, then you can kind of draw them closer towards the clean energy sector. On the other hand, you have the skilled trade side. You have those kids that are kind of really more excited about getting dirty with their hands, whether it's learning about how an electric vehicle works, or whether it's learning about how a wind turbine works, so they want to be able to just kind of make it with their hands and put it apart and put it back together again. But the key to the successful relationship is really how do you combine both of these to provide a broader range of options for both of them, because if you provide too much of one thing, they're going to become a little tired of it. I think I'll pass it off for now, but I'll probably chime back in a little bit later.
So I think one of those things that we can really do to really help make engagement within these workforce pathways more attractive to individuals coming in. It's areas that what I've heard from all my colleagues say that we can do and we can continue to expand, that a lot of times an individual's work performance actually comes into fruition during work. So the more that we can strengthen on-the-job training pathways, earn and learn pathways for participants, the stronger that's going to, the stronger outcomes, and I think the more engagement that you're going to find with individuals wanting to pursue that occupation long term. And not only, it really sets them up on that initial step into a full-on career pathway. And we know individuals pivot from their career pathway, but as long as they have a start, they're going to excel. Workforce development is economic development. If they're excelling, then we're excelling. Kazu, you mentioned a really good example of that was occurring and currently occurring with UHMC, and that's the Maui Power pathway, right? It's an earn and learn pathway. It's 10 weeks. It's manageable. It's tangible. It's realistic for those participants. And once an individual completes that hands-on earn and learn training, then they have the opportunity to get operational training position correct with Hawaiian Electric. And in that, it doesn't give them full, it opens that door. It provides equity to that individual. And I think that that's a really excellent opportunity, a really great model for us to continue to look at and to explore further.
Thanks, Marshall. All right, I think we'll turn to some of the audience questions now. We have a question for Kazu. What's the biggest challenge in retaining the workforce, and what can be done to overcome it?
Retaining the workforce. Biggest challenge. There's a number of them, but I would say that right now we have an aging workforce, and so a lot of people are choosing retirement, and so we're trying to find ways, like how mentioned, how do we re-engage our employees to stay with us a little bit longer, to come back maybe in educational roles? How do we create opportunities so they can knowledge transfer before they retire out? Another one is competition. People are always looking for the brightest engineers, the brightest individuals, and being kind of the only utility here, but cost of living here is high, right? So people on the continent are always trying to poach our people for different positions. And so one is trying to really talk about the employee value proposition of why you work at Hawaiian Electric, what it means to be here in Hawaii, the work that we do. We provide electricity for 95% of the state, which means that the work that each and every one of our employees do touches every community that we interact with. And so having those different pride points and really talking about the value of the organization has helped with retention within different areas.
Thanks, Kazu. We have another question, and this is for anyone who wants to jump in on it. They're interested in the difference in local job quantity and quality between fossil and clean energy pathways on the grid and in our communities.
Should I say that again?
Can you talk about the difference in local job quantity and quality between fossil and clean energy pathways? So I guess between renewable and non-renewable, basically, on the grid and in our communities.
I guess if you're talking just quality versus quantity, so that's why, like in our apprenticeship program, we limit what we bring in or who we bring in, so that they get the best training possible. Because yes, if you do flood the market, you're going to have people that, if you don't practice it all the time, you end up forgetting, right? Like anything else. So in the training that you go through, in all aspects of electrical installation, even in that sector, again, sometimes you get pigeonholed into only doing certain things. So the sad part is, like in the solar industry, a lot of them only know how to do solar, and they don't know how to do some of the, wiring a house and some other things that you don't want to get pigeonholed. You want to be able to expand yourself so that you become a more qualified person as opposed to just being a number out there. So I think that's a challenge as well too with the renewable side, is because of that. That a lot of it is just specialized in putting PV panels all the time, right? And doing PV every day. But there's more aspects to the renewable energy, like we talked about. That I think they need to be moved around so that they can get an overall training. And I think that's the idea of getting a well-rounded and a qualified person to be able to do that.
Yeah. I would just like to add, a little bit on that. And again, tacking on to what Kazu said is, Hawaii is not the only place going through this transition. The workers that we have, because we're a small island, are very well versed in a lot of different things. And you see the utilities across the nation trying to poach our guys. I mean, we have a mad flux of people leaving, and realizing that clean energy, while the fuel being one part of the clean, there's different components, besides generation and now how we're moving into the distributed generation. You get the transmission and distribution side also, which is aging across the nation. And again, all those components lead into a very tight race for qualified workers that take a long time to build up.
So I think for us, again, because it's, fossil fuel versus renewable energy, we're going to move from the left to the right. Our position quantity, I think, will be the same. Quality, kind of back to that retention question as well. I think internally we're trying to build a lot of career pathways within the organization. So no matter where you come into the organization, we're working on this thing called the Hawaiian Electric Academy, where we're creating an internal structure, kind of like a college, where you come in, there's basic training, then you have your foundational training in your different areas. With that, you learn the skills to do the specific job. We lay on top of that leadership training and other trainings that are kind of optional that you could take. But through that, we identify the skills that you need from the position that you're in to get to the next role, so that you can see your future within the organization and you have different career paths that you can take. So even though at the entry, you may not be in the highest paying job, you know how to get to that next job. You know how to get to that next job so you can get to that career path to a sustainable work that will keep you here in Hawaii and hopefully happy with Hawaiian Electric.
Marshall or Spencer, anything to add before we move on to another question?
I was just going to put that responsibility back on us to actually explore that question further. That would be an excellent one to answer our next clean energy sector partnership meeting and actually dive into that, because I think it is thought-provoking and it's probing, and it really does exemplify as we transition from fossil fuels to renewables, is there going to be a wage differential that occurs?
I think my compatriots have already touched very thoroughly on the topic, so I'll refrain.
Well, perfect, because we have a question just for you, Spencer. You mentioned the closing of energy pathways at 3 different schools. Besides the lack of advertisement, why do you believe we have seen such an overwhelming decline in they said clean energy workforce, but I guess in this case it's more interest in the pathway. What else is happening besides the lack of advertisement or awareness?
I mean, that comes back to why do we need advertisement for it in the first place, right? The reason why we need advertisement for it is because there's a lack of clarity about it. The fact that the community doesn't really know about the clean energy transition that's going on, and even if they do, as some earlier panelists talked about, it's not as readily impactful for them unless it's hitting them directly or personally, right? Oftentimes in their wallet. But for students, that's not really applicable to them because they don't have to really worry so much about the impact to their wallets. So then the question becomes, how do they become aware of these things? How do they gather interest towards these things? And a lot of that just comes through advertising. What types of media are they involved in? What types of messaging are they seeing? What types of visitors do they have into their classrooms, right? So again, one of the things that I have really encouraged and tried to do as much as I can is to bring, sector partners into the classroom so that they could really experience firsthand the variety of opportunity that they are able to find across the industry.
Thanks, Spencer. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Here's a good one for everybody, if anybody would like to jump in on this. They asked, if we're serious about cultivating a clean energy workforce at the scale climate goals require, what needs to change about how we train, credential, pay, and recruit workers today?
I guess I'll kick that off then. I guess beating a dead horse, I think a lot of what has to change starts at the beginning. Right? A lot of people are not as aware as they could be about the importance of the work that we're doing. A lot of people are very aware about sustainability goals, and they are very aware about climate change, especially with the larger events like the Lahaina wildfires or the Palisades fires or even the Kona lows that we experienced not too long ago. People are aware of climate change, and they're aware of how devastating it is for them, or if not being aware, they're becoming more aware of it. And so I think it's more a question of how can we transform that awareness into action for them? How can we engage them in a way that they feel that they can benefit from it? Because a lot of people will see these things and they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, that's horrible news, but what can I personally do about it? I know in my environmental science class, that's often the reaction that a lot of my students have. Like they see climate change and global warming and they're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, but that's like this huge, unfathomable thing that, what can I do about it personally? I can not use a plastic bag when I go to the grocery store. I mean, there's so much more that people can engage and do in their personal lives. And especially for students with kind of the world at their feet as they, grow up and mature and try and figure out their way through their career and their past and their lives, they can engage with the clean energy sector. And so I think by creating these opportunities for them to engage more with the clean energy sector, it provides them opportunities to be the change that they want to see in the world by creating it.
Yeah, and I think we just continue to need to analyze, what is actually the labor market data telling us? Hey, what are the in-demand jobs right now? What is forecasted, and then how do we retool and reskill our training programs in order to meet that need? That's one area. So we have to have a continued focus on good research and be analytical in our approaches and use objective measures in order to measure our progress with that. The other area too is that we also just need to have a system-wide level of thinking and understanding and know that clean energy is not confined, as we said earlier, to a specific silo, but it cascades across all sectors and across all industries. And the more that we can find ourselves and our occupations within that, I think the better we are going to be at achieving our clean energy goals for our state.
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and it's something that we're going to continue to work on. One of the things is, as we look at energy as a whole, our jobs continually change. Wildfire wasn't a thing 5 years ago, and so we didn't have positions for wildfire strategy, wildfire mitigation, fire ignition. We didn't have a meteorologist at Hawaiian Electric. So all these things with climate, with different things, with technology, we have so many new cameras, so many new automations, all these different advancements. We're going to have to continue to relook at our workforce. What are the needs of the future workforce as technology becomes available? With AI right now, we're not sure how that's going to impact us over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So we're going to have to work on that and develop that as we go. So I think as we look at 2045, we are headed in the right direction. We're doing a lot of great things, but maybe it is every 3 years we're going to have to go back and change, adapt, rebuild, recertify, reorganize, and of course work with all of our partners to do that. So,
No, adding on to that is, again, I would talk about the participation and commitment. Bringing labor in early into the conversations, whether that's policy-wise. When we always think about the what and the why, we got to start thinking too of the how and the when, and bringing us into that, looking towards the future to develop that workforce, because it does take time to do it.
I think to create awareness, I think, for me, I think our part is just exposing more of the students to renewable energy. We do career fairs, but now it's maybe bringing PV panels, bringing batteries, bringing a Tesla vehicle, a battery vehicle, show them how it works. I just installed my own battery system, on solar in my house. I'm constantly looking at my phone app, telling my wife, hey, you gotta turn off the light, you're not using this. Before you make sure you charge your car during the day and things like that. But I'm excited about it because I can see energy savings, I see it working. And that's one thing about electricity, you don't see it happening, right? But it's there. You see PV panels, and we did a demonstration one time with the legislators. We showed them some PV panels that we put together and plugged it in and things like that, and put a meter on it. And they could actually see the sun hitting the panels where it's charging and it is creating electricity and all that, because you can't see it again, and like I said, you can't touch it, but it's there, and it's there, and it's working. And I think that's something that getting people excited about seeing those things, I think, is what is needed more often, I think, especially to our younger generation, so that it's automatically ingrained in them growing up that just like you said, whether you not using plastic bags, and as you can see through lunchtime, we have all recyclable things, and things that'll be able to do this on an everyday basis is just part of our life, and it's something I think we have to work on to create that awareness itself, just getting more exposure on a lot of this.
Thank you all. We only have a little bit of time left, but I just wonder if any of you would like to share any last thoughts with the audience. What do you want them to take away from this conversation today?
I think I'd like to tap into something that Damien mentioned. You mentioned about how it's all about getting more exposure out there, and I think that's absolutely correct. Right? One of the reasons why the energy pathway failed at my school is because not enough students were signing up. But that also has to do with not enough students being able to sign up for it. Right? So it's in large part a numbers game. Right? The more people that are exposed to these topics, the more people that learn about what everyone is doing in the clean energy sector, the more people that will be able to become involved and get behind it. At our school in the Department of Education, we have a theme. So every year we have a school theme, and it's kind of handed to us by the DOE, the Department of Education. And this year's theme was Ne'epapa. Right? And so the theme of Ne'epapa is all about rowing together in a canoe in the same direction to show that many hands can help get us towards a common goal. And I think that it's kind of what I'd like to see here. Right? We have a bunch of wonderful people from across all sectors of the industry here to help us create a better Hawaii.
I think that's a perfect note to end this panel on. So thank you so much to all of our amazing panelists. Can we give them a round of applause?